Recording. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. Such a huge audience again today. I feel very privileged that all of you are joining. I am actually going to stop my video because I see my internet is not so strong today. But I will see you again later. Let me just. Right. So today our topic is going to be Scopus for systematic reviews. We have already mentioned that everybody is muted, but please ask your questions in the Q&A box. And of course, we will share the recording and also share the information where you can download your certificate. So on the right-hand side, you will see this is the number of certificates that were issued last time. This is actually more than there were people in the session. So the email was sent out. Everybody should have received. So I received some questions via email about not receiving the certificate. So this is just to show you that I have sent out the email, and most of the certificates have been downloaded already. So look out for that email again tomorrow. It's a Zoom email, which will take you to where you can download the certificate. Our topic today is, as I said, systematic reviews, and we're going to start with just quickly recap on Scopus. If anybody is listening that has not been introduced to Scopus, and then we'll just first talk a little bit about systematic reviews. Why would you do a systematic review? What are the different types of reviews? What is a meta-analysis? How is that different from a systematic review? How do you do systematic searching? What are the frameworks that you can use to break your topic into concepts and keywords? And we'll look at one of these frameworks, which is PICO. I'll explain what PICO is, and then also what is the process to capture the results of your search, right? So before we continue, I just have to make a disclaimer, and that is that I am not an expert in systematic reviews. I'm an expert in Scopus. So please be patient with me. If I am not able to answer all your questions about systematic reviews, but what I do know is how you can use Scopus in terms of searching for literature to use in a systematic review. So just to get that recap of Scopus again, so Scopus is a global multidisciplinary database for discovering academic literature, and it includes visualization tools to analyze search results, as well as metrics to measure research performance. Many of these use cases we have already done this year, but just to give you an indication of what Scopus covers, we get publications from more than 7,000 publishers, which covers then more than 27,000 journals. We also cover books, and each of the publications are linked to an affiliation, and it's also linked to an author profile. So as I mentioned, there are many different use cases for Scopus. Today we're going to talk specifically about, it's actually the wrong one that is shown here, sorry about that. So we're going to talk about how do you find literature for your topic, so specific for a systematic review. So that's one of the use cases. Other use cases are, of course, to measure your research impact, to find journals, to find collaborators, etc. And we've done many of these use cases before. So Scopus covers journals, conferences, books, and patents. And it is multidisciplinary, and I'll also explain that this is one of the reasons why Scopus can be used for a systematic review. Scopus is updated on a daily basis with about 12,000 to 13,000 articles per day, includes open access, so you can search for open access if you want to find the full text, and it also includes preprints. So the publications that we have in Scopus have to comply with a selection criteria. And this, when journals apply to be indexed in Scopus, it goes to the Content Selection and Advisory Board. This is an independent board of experts in publishing that will look at the quality of the journal and see if it matches the selection criteria. And this is very important to make sure and to give you the assurance that the literature that you find in Scopus is of a high academic standard. So let's start. We're going to talk first about a little bit about systematic reviews for those of you who don't know that, what it's about. And also, first starting with why would you do a systematic review? And the reason is that scientists are producing a lot more research papers than before. And this is leading to challenges in staying connected with ongoing discussions in research fields. So the increasing volume of the research makes it difficult to keep track of the past findings, both in your own field, but also in other fields. And new research then, so when researchers nowadays, when they do research, they often aren't able to build upon or to contribute to that what is already established within their research field, right? And to avoid this problem, researchers rely on reviews of previous literature. So reviews of previous literature give you an overview, a summary, a condensed version of all their research that has been done before. There are different types of literature reviews. So one, and we've done an overview of this, or we've done a session on this, is a review article, for example, or a review paper, and that is usually then a narrative review. So it's basically, to summarize it very shortly, it aims to provide a descriptive overview of selected literature, right? With a systematic review, it's a little bit different because it is explicit. It uses explicit and replicable methods in order to retrieve all available literature pertaining to a specific topic. And it answers a question, so a defined question. So if you look at the definition of a systematic review, it is a robust summary of evidence. So the focus here is on evidence to produce a biased and unbiased description of the cumulative state of evidence on a research problem or a hypothesis. Right? So it is very much related to giving a summary of all the evidence related to a specific research problem. In this way, evidence then it's a synthesis, a summary of the evidence, which makes it, which highlights then the important developments within a particular field. So for a systematic review, to do a systematic review, you have to create a search strategy with predefined criteria for what will be included and what will be excluded in your study. That should then be reported in full detail in a review protocol, right? So this is different than a normal review, different than a research paper, in the sense that the literature search that you do is very important. It has to be very specifically defined, and it must be included in the publication in full detail, right? So often when we talk about systematic reviews, we get the question, so, well, how does a systematic review differ from a meta-analysis? So as I mentioned, a systematic review is comprehensive. It looks at all the possible literature that is available. It is very structured and answers a research question, very specifically answering a question. I'll show you an example of that. Whereas a meta-analysis is a statistical technique used to quantify and to analyze and combine the results of multiple individual studies, right? It is not a narrative. There's not a textual way of reporting on a meta-analysis. It's basically a quantitative analysis. The methodology is very much the same. It involves a systematic and rigorous search of the literature. In the meta-analysis, also it extracts data from individual studies, then performs a statistical analysis and reports on that. The output of a systematic review will be a narrative synthesis of the available evidence. So it will also it will be a textual summary of what the findings are of this, but it is also often shown in tables. With a meta-analysis, it is a quantitative summary, often in the form of a forest plot. Right. So those are very high-level differences between a systematic review and a meta-analysis. Both of them are very comprehensive, and they are also very structured, and each step of the search process has to be documented. Right. So systematic searching is essential for a systematic review. And what does that mean? It must be as thorough as possible to avoid any missing or relevant information. It must be transparent, so it must be clear what your choices are that you make in designing your search strategy. So which keywords are you including, which keywords are you not including, and it must be documented. So as with the methods of any research study, the reader must be able to replicate your work. So you have to write down or document the entire search strategy. So luckily, there are frameworks that help researchers to break down the topics into concepts. There are different of these frameworks. So the one I'm going to focus on today that is very often used, and it's mostly used in medicine and health sciences, is PICO. The PICO is an acronym for population, intervention, what is the comparator and the outcome of a clinical question, such as the effectiveness of a clinical intervention. So I'll show you an example of that. Let me just see if I've got that on the next page. No, I'll have to come back to the example for you. But there are also other frameworks. So Eclipse is another one. So where you use these acronyms to break down your topic into searchable entities. So what the expectation, the client group, location, the impact, professionals, service, and this is also for health policy and management. Another framework is SPICE. So SPICE stands for setting. What is the setting? What is the perspective, intervention, comparison, and evaluation? And it's usually used for service evaluation. So this is a nice summary. It's a LibGuide where an overview is provided of the different frameworks that can be used to break down your topic into concepts. I'm going to focus on PICO today. So with PICO, is used to construct a systematic and a comprehensive search strategy, and researchers use PICO elements to identify keywords and search terms for each component of this. So you would have, for example, the population, and this is to identify a specific population or group of interest. For example, if you are conducting a systematic review on the effectiveness of a new drug for hypertension, the population is going to be adults with hypertension, right? So that's your population. The intervention is going to be the administration of a specific drug. So what was the intervention that took place? You would usually compare that to something. So if it is not a drug that is administered, what is the placebo effect, for example, or standard hypertension medication? And then what is the outcome? So you will be looking for an outcome as well. So reduction in blood pressure, for example. So this is an example then of where you would be looking at the effectiveness of a drug for hypertension. You want to find the evidence in the literature of previous research on this topic. And you break that down by identifying keywords for the population, keywords for the intervention that you're looking for, keywords for what you would compare that with, and then also keywords for the outcome. So the process is very important. So that for the search strategy should be documented in as an integral part of a systematic review protocol, right? So I've said this many times now, but you have to write down your complete search strategy as well as the results that you receive for each of the keywords. It must be explicit, it must be detailed so that it can be reproduced. So in this, you can also see an example where the researcher has used PICO elements here. So the patient or the population, this is patients undergoing abdominal surgery. Your search term is going to be abdominal surgery or post-operative or recovery. So you use this framework to identify the different keywords that you would need. For the intervention, this specific case is looking at what is the effectiveness of chewing gum to prevent a specific reaction after operation. So chewing gum is one of these interventions that can be taken. So the keywords are chewing gum or just gum. The comparison is with not chewing gum. And then the outcome we're looking for is about the effect of post-operative. So also your keywords there, they would be post-operative ileus or paralytic ileus or just ileus. So this is just to show how you would apply the PICO elements to your topic and break it down into these elements and then identify the relevant keywords that you would use. So Scopus, we often get the question because systematic reviews are most often done in the health sciences. And is Scopus relevant for systematic reviews? And the answer is yes, it is. But in most cases, you would not only use Scopus. So in most of these synthesis projects or systematic reviews would usually include one major database. And Scopus is often used as that one major database. But often when you do a systematic review, you would also include, other databases, more subject-specific databases. So if you're in health sciences, you would use PubMed as well, for instance. But why Scopus is also useful, and systematic reviews is not only done in health sciences, it's also done in other subject areas. It's just most well known in the health sciences, is because it is comprehensive, covering that 27,000 journals. And then also, as I mentioned, it's multidisciplinary. So often when you're doing a systematic reviews, you would look at it from an multidisciplinary perspective. For instance, if you look at the role of the community in HIV medication adoption, you would not, this is not only related to health sciences, it's also related to social sciences, for example. So in these cases, Scopus is useful to use as a major database in combination with other more subject-specific databases. Right. So this is an example that we will do live in Scopus now. So we're going to look at a topic of a systematic review, for instance, comparing two different drugs. So comparing Ritalin and Concerta in the treatment of ADHD in children. It's a systematic review. So using PICA, we have for the population, we're looking at patients with ADHD, and the terminology ADHD would be used close to infant or child or pediatric. There should be others. This is just an example. The intervention is using the drugs Ritalin, or the medical name is methylphenidate. The comparator is Concerta, it's the other drug. The outcome is whether it improves or changes or has side effects or effects on children. And your search strategy would look like something like you see here, but I will go into Scopus and we can do it together. So let me just do a new share and find Scopus. Let me just see if you can. Right, so now you can see a Scopus homepage. And you can use the basic search for a systematic review. You can use the basic search. You can also use the advanced search for this, but I'm going to stick with the basic search today. So we start off with, there are two different ways in which you can do your search query. You can, I copy pasted this, so I'm just going to makes it easier, then I don't have to type so much. So our first keyword is going to be, or relates to, ADHD. And we are using the operators. So to learn more about the operators, the basic operators that we have in Scopus is and, or, and not. But we do also have other operators. And if you click on the search tips, it will take you to a page in Scopus where you can learn more about search terms. So let me see if I can find it quickly. So here you'll find information about the operators. Just open this. You can see and, or, and not. So these are the operators that you combine your keywords with. These are the basic operators that you can use, but we also have proximity operators. For instance, W/N stands for a number of words, where you can look for terminology that is in proximity of each other, that are close to each other. So you would use W/2, for example, if you want your terms to be within 2 words of each other. You can also use pre/N, so pre standing, what does pre stand for? Forgotten now, but it means before, basically. So so that it must appear in a specific order of words. So these words should be in a specific order of each other, also within 3 words of each other. So these are the 2 proximity operators that you can use. Let me just see. Yeah, you can see the screen. Okay, so I'm just going back to my search page, because I've used W/N, which means that I'm looking for ADHD that is within 2 words of infant or child or pediatric. So children, infants that have ADHD. So this is my first search, and then I can, let me just see if everything is right. And when you are using or between different words, it is good to always put a bracket around that. So I'll do my first search. Enter button. And maybe refresh my page. I'm going to run that search again. So it is running the search now. Right, so for my first keyword set, I've got 13,000. Then I can continue and also then do my next set of keywords. And this is the intervention. So my intervention is just it's Ritalin or methylphenidate. That is my second set of, and there I get 24,000 publications. And then the third set is then the comparison is with Concerta. And here I've put the curly brackets around because I want to tell Scopus that I'm searching for an exact phrase. If I don't put these curly brackets around, Scopus is going to think that I'm making a spelling mistake. So it's important to show that this is a phrase or a name of a drug that I'm searching for. And this information about these different types of brackets is also available if you go to the where it was under search options, or get back to that now. So I'm just searching. Now I've got 1,000 just for that. And the idea of a systematic review in many cases is to search for each of the concepts individually and then combine your searches. And this is why we're doing it in this way. And then the last aspect that we're looking for is the outcome. And we're looking for, is it improving, changing, or does it have side effects? Effective, and search for that. And here we've got 6 million, right? So what we do now is to go back to our search. I'm just going to go back to the home page because Scopus automatically keeps a record of all the search results. So you can see the first one, the second one, third one, and the fourth one. And now we combine these queries. And this is actually, you can add this into your article. So this is already the structure that you need to show how did you search. This is the systematic way of searching. So now we can combine our search, these different searches, and note that we are using and between them. So I'm not sure what that one is. So we've got search 1, 2, 3, and 4, and show results. So for this search in total, there are 141 documents, and this will be then the result of your search question. So as in any other search, you can still use your filters. So if you want to narrow down to a specific time period, for example, if you only want to do between, say 2014 and 2023, and you also want only articles and a specific language, for example, only French and English, you can use your filter to narrow down. Right. And then it provides you a summary of your search, combining all the different concepts and the keywords that you used is then available for you to copy paste, and you can add that into your article as well. So the idea is then also, if I just go back to the home page, so just by clicking on the Scopus logo, if you scroll down, your information will be kept here for you. Unfortunately, you can't export this, but you can screen capture this to show exactly how you got to your results. So this is the one way that you can do it, is to, and this is the most popular way, is that you search for one concept at a time using your different synonyms or different terminology that reflects that concept. And then after you've done them one by one, then you combine them into one search. It is also possible to do it just in one go. So it would look like, you see what it would look like this, yes. Typically, this would be then, let me just scroll. So I've just copy pasted this. It would look like this, and then you add your next one, and this is then your intervention, and your third one is your comparison that you're using, and the fourth search is your outcomes. Oops. Let's just paste that. And that is your outcomes. Right. So this is the second way of doing it. You'll get exactly the same results. So just by using the search in a different way. Then you do search. And again, you can then use your folders. So there you get results again, and then using your filters. So we specified 2014 up to current, and we also specified articles and language, English and French, and limit to, right. So I've shown you two different ways to do the same thing. There's no right or wrong way, but these are the two methods that are most used to do a systematic search query, and then being able to give record of exactly, how you use the different and how you combine them as well, right? So this would be the first one, and the second one is at the top here. Right. So with that, I hope this has been useful for you in terms of seeing how a systematic search is done for a systematic review. The whole idea is being a systematic, organizing your keywords in advance, combining them in the right and combining them in the right way, and documenting the keywords that you use, the order in which you use them, and the results that you received for them. Let me just go back to my slides to see. No, I want to show you another example. This is an example. This is in Word. Right, so yeah, you can see that now. So this is a systematic review, multi-level interventions in the prevention, control, and management of non-communicable diseases. It's a systematic review and a meta-analysis in one of the evidence in sub-Saharan Africa. And here it is using PICO extended. So it's also adding not only the population, the intervention, the comparator, the outcome, but also what study type was used, as well as the geography. So this is another framework that you can use, is PICOS G. And showing here, so with under your population, you have many different keywords. This is a very extensive one, which is why I'm showing you. And then also this is the intervention that was taken. This is various interventions, education, television, radio, etc. All the different synonyms for communicable diseases. What is the clinical outcome? What type of study was done? And then also what was the geography? So a very systematic way that was used here, and very comprehensive as well. So with that, we've come to the end of the demo also. Are there any questions at this stage? Just go back to...
Lucia, there is a question, but I think they are not out of scope, but they are it's methodological questions. It's about how to difference between methods and if I don't know. The question are not how to conduct a systematic review on Scopus, but how to do methodology in research in general. We can choose some questions which are in the subject of today. There is section, I lost it, but I remember that it's about PICO. It is only available, it's only for the medical field, or it can be done in other fields as human science, social and human sciences.
It can actually be used in other sciences as well. Unfortunately, I don't have any nice examples for you, to show you. But you can use the framework, or you can use. Let me just share my screen again. So, or you can use one of the other frameworks that are available. I've got too many things open now. So let me just find that front. So you can also use Eclipse, or you can use Spice, and there are actually many other different types that you can use. So this is why I also refer to this LibGuide, where you can find other frameworks that are useful, which is not only health sciences, but will be more social sciences, even engineering, computer science. So I'm unfortunately, I don't have a lot of experience with the other frameworks, but there are definitely other frameworks that you can use to, if you are not within the health sciences. So I hope this link then will be useful for you.
Sure.
Hi.
Yeah. There's a question. Are there rules to formulate the systematic literature review question, or does it just need to be precise? Second question, this is the same person who is asking, is the search strategy limited to the keywords and the protocol for conducting the search? And the last question is, if we work with several databases, that means we must set a search strategy for each database.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm going to answer the last question first. So if you're using different databases, you can still use a framework, such as PICO or Eclipse or any of these, to firstly just identify the keywords per element. And then for each of the databases, you would have to adapt the search strategy using the protocol of that database. So PubMed is a little bit different from Scopus, or any of the other Embase, for example, has a different way. So you can start with PICO, identify all your keywords, and then you have to also show within your strategy how you adapt it for each of the different databases. So I remember that question. The first one was about systematic reviews is not only about the searching. So the way that you create your topic, for example, it is systematic reviews are usually to show or to synthesize evidence. You have a very specific question that you're answering. So what is the evidence related to an issue? What is the evidence that is coming out of the research? So it's not a systematic review is not only about doing a systematic search. It is about the question that you're answering must also reflect that it's a systematic review, that you trying to capture and synthesize evidence related to a very specific problem. And then the systematic review. So we've only talked here about the searching part of it, but the reporting part of a systematic review. So the whole methodology is also very prescribed. You have to report. Do your reporting in a specific structure. So that unfortunately, I'm not an expert. I know that PRISM is a way of doing that. So it shows you how you have, what your question is, how you conducted your search, what your results are, and then what your recommendations are. And it is done in a format, and that format is called PRISM. How you report that. I hope that helps with the question.
Donc, il y a des questions que vous trouverez la réponse dans le support que Lucia a déjà expliqué, comme la différence entre Systematic Review Analysis and Narrative Reviews. Donc, il y avait un tableau qui montrait la différence. Donc, on va vous envoyer le support pour le garder, pour le consulter plus tard. Donc, il y a des questions sur la publication qui ne sont pas le sujet d'aujourd'hui. Que je suis en train de dérouler les questions pour voir une question qui est dans le sujet, qui est très pertinente. There's many questions about Prisma. Can you say a word about this, Lucia, please?
Unfortunately, I don't want to go into that because that is definitely not my experience.
Yeah.
So, the specific way of how you do your reporting of a systematic review is Prisma is the standard format in which you would report on, but I don't have enough experience. I'm sorry. My experience is about the searching. It's not about the systematic review. So
that's why I told you at the beginning the questions are very deep in the methodology. It's difficult to answer about all the questions about how and about all the concept about methodology. So we are sorry. We can take only questions which are related to the research for the systematic review on Scopus, how to build it.
Yeah, unfortunately. So hopefully in future, I will also be able to answer more of these questions. Or maybe we can have a speaker that is more expert in the systematic review so that we can combine the two. But
It
for
seems
now, we
that's
can
very
just focus on.
interesting. Yeah, it seems that's very interesting, and it interested lots of researchers here. So we can later search an expert uh, to do and to explain more in details all these concepts and aspects of literature review.
Okay, we could do that. I agree.
Donc, il paraît que la question de comment faire la revue des matières, tous les concepts, toutes les méthodologies, les méthodes qui sont appliquées, ça intéresse beaucoup. Donc, nous allons tâcher à programmer toute une session avec un expert pour vous expliquer tous ces aspects que nous ne pouvons pas aborder malheureusement pendant la séance d'aujourd'hui. Nous avons essayé de prendre toutes les questions qui sont relatives avec le sujet d'aujourd'hui. Avec la promesse de programmer une autre session sur systematic review, sur la systematic review literature. Donc, les questions qui restent sont sur les attestations et le support de formation que vous allez recevoir sur vos emails. Vous allez recevoir un lien vers Research Academy qui contient l'attestation, l'enregistrement vidéo et le support de la formation d'aujourd'hui. Nous allons partager la vidéo, l'enregistrement sur notre chaîne YouTube CNRST officiel, sur notre page Facebook imis.cnrst. On vous donne rendez-vous avec une autre session de formation avec Elsevier le 15 novembre. Nous avons d'autres sessions de formation programmées avec d'autres éditeurs et fournisseurs d'accès. Donc, pour suivre le calendrier de formation, suivez notre page Facebook imis.cnrst. Donc, je vous remercie pour votre participation et je remercie Lucia pour sa présentation. Et à la prochaine.
Thank you very much. Until next
Thank
time.
you,
Thank you
Lucia.
very much. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.